See if we got one lined up here. We do. Yeah, that's my drill. Oh, poopy doos. In here, because there's, oh shoot, I forgot to put the epoxy there. Dadgummit. Well, we missed a spot. I gotta take them all back out. Maybe I should try to drill the right way. What happens is these are magnetic, and what happens is they get so full of junk that they won't hold the screw anymore. It's hard to get it out because it's magnetic. I'm gonna have to clean that out somehow. Hey there, YouTubers. Me again. I'm gonna give you 2 guesses what I'm gonna do today. You guessed it, first guess, woo! Floor pans. Now, I'm not going to bore you with hours and hours and hours of welding. But, what I will bore you with is getting them to fit. This is my plan. I'm going to get all of the floor pans fitted and tack welded, so they're in position. A couple of I've decided, is a word? Not really. A couple of them are, well, none of them are the right floor pans. Let's just face it. These are satellite floor pans, or charger. They're 71 to 74 B-body Mopar, which would be charger, satellite, Roadrunner, Coronet, any B-body. Okay. This is an F-body. It is a 75 or 6, I think, F-body. So they're the wrong floor pans. But the floor pans for this car don't exist. Nobody makes them. Unless you cut them out of another car like this, which 98.7% of them have bad floor pans, and if they have good floor pans, nobody wants to cut that up, right? So there you go. So we are going to fit satellite. These are actually out of a satellite. Well, these are actually aftermarket that I had in a satellite, and then the satellite became a parts car, and we cut them back out of the satellite. So they're new, but not really new. They're kind of GNU, but not. They're GNU. GNU is good as new. So they're GNU. They're like new. They were never used. They were put in and never used. So we just unput them in. Now they're going to go in this car, and there's going to be a little bit of modification having to go on here. So fabricating them to fit is going to be the meat of this video. Hours and hours of going is not very entertaining. It's not even fun, to be honest with you. Not even a little bit fun. But the fabrication is kind of fun. Not that in itself it's fun, but in the fact that it's very satisfying once you get there. Once you get it in and like, wow, that looks really good. Then you got those hours and hours of welding to go, oh my god. Okay. Well, they fit okay. They're not horrible. But we're going to do a lot of trimming, and then my plan is I'm going to glue, right? I know that sounds really weird, but they have epoxies now that are designed to bond body panels, but overlapping them. Now I'm not going to overlap the sheet metal because it's stronger if you butt weld it but leave a little bit of a gap. That's much stronger. With this particular job, it's not going to be much fun because some of the metal gets pretty thin in spots. And yeah, it's fun. I've already put one small patch, and I'll show you off camera, just because it's in an awkward spot and it would have been impossible to have a camera in the way. Well, not impossible, but to the point of I'd probably throw the camera. You know what I'm saying? You ever get to that point where you just so tedious, you're like, ah! Well, anyway, it can do that when you're doing these things, especially when you're way up underneath the heater and underneath the car. You know, my belly's all burned up from weld, which is my own fault because I have leathers. But anyway. We're going to start with this floor pan here because this is the hardest one. And I've got some fuel lines that run underneath it. And I've got them disconnected while it's on the lift, but I want to take this car back off the lift before Monday when I got to start going to work, get my cars back in out of the weather. This one can go back out until we're done. So this is where we're at. We're going to do a little bit of gluing, a little bit of welding. just to get it tacked in and get everything fabricated to the point of it would look done, but not really done, just welding left. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to stop talking now. Let's get you in here, inside the car, and kind of show you what we're doing, where we're at, and why we're doing it, and then we'll just start doing it. A lot of it may or may not have dialogue. Some of it will be fast-forwarded because it's monotonous. And maybe not monotonous, but yeah, well, anyway. We'll see. See how it comes out, how boring it gets. We'll try to keep it as exciting as floor pans can possibly be, but if you have an Aspen or a Volare and you need to put in floor pans, you're going to have to do the same thing, because they don't make them. If you go back a year or so ago when I put what did I put in the Gremlin? Oh, the gas tank in my Gremlin. They don't make a gas tank for the Gremlin either, so unless you can find one, you're lucky enough to find a good one, some far, far away land, you'll have to do the same thing with the Gremlin that I did with mine, is I put in a Mopar gas tank, and I had to modify it. So modification is the name of the game. Let's get started. I've already lined this where this is cut right here. I've already lined it up. And I need to get around this little hump here. If you look underneath the floor pan, you'll see I've kind of cut at an angle there. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this. I'm going to match up this line here. Okay, because this kind of comes up a little bit, which should match up perfectly with that, because that's coming up a tiny bit. And then we're going to trim this to fit along this edge. And the way I'm going to do that is, once I get this to fit flat over here, I'm going to set all this in place, and I'm going to go underneath the car and draw. I'm going to start drawing lines. And we'll sneak up on it. We're going to go stay a little bit big, start fitting it, and just slowly trim until it fits. So, I'm going to go ahead and zing this, and then we'll start drawing. I'm just going to leave it right in place, and we're going to zing this off of here. It's almost too good. Alright, now. Wow. That's kind of good, kind of not good. Alright, we're going to just, that's probably good right there, so okay. We're going to go ahead and now you'll see there's some lumps and bumps and things that don't quite match up. This will have to be curled up a little bit. This will have to be hammered down a little bit. That's going to have to be pulled in a little bit. I might even go ahead and put a couple of self-tappers in there to hold this into place. This is going to have to be cut in here too. So, but that changed a whole bunch of stuff, didn't it? Okay. So let me go ahead and get underneath this thing. I'm going to put a couple of magnets to hold this thing in place, and that way it won't move around while we're drawing. Alright, let's get underneath the car. Slight change of plans. I thought maybe I'd get all of the floor pans in before I started drawing. That would only make sense. That way I gotta jack up the car just one time. And I got this piece fitted in pretty good. The only problem is, if you see, this has to curl up a little bit over in this corner. Okay? So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a pair of channel locks. And we're going to try to put a little bump in there. Well, looky there. Alright, we're That's pretty good. I kind of want to trim this a little bit. So I think that's going to have to do. Yeah, that'll have to do. So, now, the question is, how do I hold it in place until I'm ready? I'm thinking I'm just going to get something heavy, a battery. Well, yeah, I'm just going to draw. So maybe a battery or something just to hold that in place until we can draw our pictures. Yeah, well, let's see if I can put this battery in here without. There we go. Okay, perfect. All right, the front floor pan on the driver's side needed almost nothing. It's going to have some hammering and beating to go, but other than that, doesn't really need to be trimmed or anything, other than what we're getting ready to draw. So that one's set in there pretty good. This one, however, is not cooperating very well. And this one doesn't have, here and here, it doesn't have a lot of room. So the biggest issue with this one is going to be we can cut this off. Okay. And then we can cut. What would be the best way? Right here. This one's a little sketchy because this one's. We don't want to get too small. We'll be putting little patches everywhere. I think we can cut some of this out of here. We don't want to cut too much. We do need some of the rise. No. We want to push this way some more, I think. I'm kind of mumbling to myself, so I apologize if you're wondering what I'm saying, because I'm mumbling a little bit over here, but it's because I'm kind of talking to myself. But I need this to fit down in here, but this little lip upward is kind of a necessary evil. So I think on this one, we might, yeah, let's do that. The problem with sheet metal is if you take too much, you end up having an issue because that's just enough right there. So I don't know if I want to cut any of that. I don't think I'm going to trim any of that. I think we're just going to go there. I'm just going to nip this little, just nip this. I'm going to change that a little bit. Just going to nip that. I'm not going to cut any of this. I am going to cut some of that. Okay, so let's know we don't want any of that. Okay, and then, you know what? We'll cut that out. Maybe that. So let's see if we can get this to go down a little bit better. A little bit more of this one out, I think. that's a little aggressive, but that ought to get us down far enough. We're probably far enough now where I can get some decent drawing, but we'll just go ahead. I just noticed there's a little bit of not so gooder here. So I may leave the extra on this for right now and just bend it in. Okay, so there we go. I want something. There we go. Yep, I think I want to. I was going to nib that little bugger off, wasn't I? Yep. Zippers, I think that's good enough to set a battery on. And then we'll, I think I might want to, yeah, let me get a hammer. I think I like the hammer idea better. On second thought, I think I like the let's do a little bending thought better. So let's start, that's got a little ridge on it. See if that looks better. Got that little ridge right there I need to get rid of probably. That's just goo in there. A little bit more curvage here. There we go. too shabby there. Alright. Still wants to go. Still teetering on that spot. So what we're going to do, if you'll look, there's a little bit of one of those doodahs right there to make it stronger. We're going to flatten that bad boy out. There we go. Now I got to rebend it. Go. Now, the rest of it's going to be trimming. We'll bang all that back down and get it all match up. So let's go ahead and find a battery and set something heavy on top of that. And that one's ready to trace out. So we got them all ready to trace out. We'll get underneath the car and do so. Now I just started drawing. This one actually looks pretty darn good where it's at. Like I said, I got a little bit icky here, but I kind of am liking this one. I'm just going to draw. I think we're good here. So this one really, we're pretty darn close. Most of them are pretty decent as far as you need it to set down on the frame, and we're about ½ an inch from there. Now, I'm also going to trace out the frame. And you might ask me, why am I tracing out the frame? Reason being is we're going to drill some holes in the frame. We're going to put some self-tappers through there, okay? And we're going to put the self-tappers in through the framework. In fact, here we go. We got a couple of holes here. I'm going to trace out the framework on this, and we'll use that to pull the floor pan into the framework, and then we'll just start a welding. You know what I'm saying? So, a little tiny bit of trimming we're going to do here. A lot of these, the trimming isn't even, I don't know, we don't have to in some cases. Don't have much trimming to do at all. You've probably heard me say it before. I'm not a huge fan of four-post lifts because these ramps, they get in the way. And I love a two-post, but we had to replace this frame rail, which two-post probably would have gotten in the way of that. So it was good for this job, but now I would have preferred having it on a two-post. But you get what you get, you know. I mean, my two-post is occupied right now, so such is life. Alrighty, so we did get this traced out here. And if I can get past these headers, here we go. Now we're always going to cut a little bit big, because headers, big. If you cut small, you can't add metal. I mean, you can, but it's a lot more difficult. And this one is just not going to cooperate. Need a longer pen. Here we go. There's just so much crap over here. Now it is touching the frame on one spot over here. Like I said, the driver's side really wasn't too bad as far as how it fits. So evidently the B-body and the F-body share similar cabins as far as the driver's seat goes. Alright. I think that one is just interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. I guess the original floor pan must have dipped down after the frame. So we're going to either have to hit this up a little bit or probably bring this up, I'm thinking. And that'll match everything. So we'll look really pretty darn decent on this. I think that's, oh, wait, did we get this one? Nope, we didn't get this one. Why didn't you say something? Alright, that's all good there. Yeah, we gotta go here. This one's looking pretty good too. This is the one. Oh, nope. Both of these are looking pretty good on the back side too. I'm going to have to do a little bit of massage in here. A little bit of tink, 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 tink. As we start to tack things in, we'll slowly mold things together. But I don't think we're too far off on a lot of this. Got a pretty good gap here. We can make that up with a little hammering. Maybe trim that little spot right there. Okay. Okay. Let's see how that looks topside. I've got this piece pretty much fitted where I want it. And now what I've got to do is I have to mount it to this, which what I plan on doing is I'm going to put some adhesive, some panel bond on here, and then I'm going to panel bond. This one I had to cut a slit here because this particular floor pan has a bump here. It came up, and so I need to get that bump to go down, so I cut a slit here so I can hammer that down. But now I want it to curl up over here. I got some ugly there, but we'll see what we can do with that. So I've got a couple of tools. Channel locks, always a great tool. Some tools that are specifically made for bending. And I'm just going to take this and start bending it up. See if I can get enough bend out of it to do what I want to do. Alright, let's try that. Well, I probably put a little too much bend in it. Kind of got this side lined up. I'm working off of one particular edge. And that's pretty good, because what we'll do from there, we'll just hammer it back down where we want it. That'd be alright. I'm using what they call a shrinking hammer. You see all the little waffly things on there? What that does is it helps to shrink the metal while you're hitting it. And in this case, that's a must. I'm going to have to get something hard to hit that on. But we'll go ahead. We may have to slit this again. I'm just going to try to get that flat. I started putting the screws in from the top so I could see just how it looked as I was making things fit. And this side I've already done. I've already taken my zip wheel and I have put a 1/16 inch cut to match the floors. And I'm about ready to do it here and here as well. Now I'm going to be doing it up in that corner and up in there, but you're probably not going to be able to see any of that, because if I put the camera over here, you're not going to be able to see, because my body's going to be in the way. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you what I was doing, but this fits really nice. We're tight up against the frame, we're tight up against all of the places in here. I mean, don't forget, this floor pan is for a satellite or a Roadrunner. This is not a satellite or a Roadrunner, and even though we are going to put a charger front end on this thing, this is an F-body Aspen, Dodge Aspen and or Plymouth Volare. They're considered F-bodies. This is not the proper floor pan, but as you can see, it looks pretty darn good in here. Okay, everything's matching up. It took some cutting and some hammering and some beating, and I don't show all of that, just because it gets ridiculous to try to show every little sheet metal. And I like watching shows on sheet metal fabrication, but it can get really mundane if you just show everything. So I'm just trying to, basically, I just took a lot of hammering, slicing. Like if you have a bulge, like this had a bulge here, and so it had like a, this came up and then up. So this piece was higher than the rest of it, and kind of like this piece here. And so in order to make it match, I had to slice down the middle of the bulge and then hammer it flat, because if you don't slice it, what's going to happen is the metal's going to be too big, and it's going to wobble wobble. It's going to oil can on you. Okay, and I actually did that on the other side. If I could probably show you that, I've got a little bit of issues I got to fix over there because I didn't slice it originally. I did eventually, but anyway, what we're going to do right now is I've got, which you probably can't see, is I've got the whole back floor here is tools. I'm going to put on my safety glasses, and I'm going to take, I decided to go with the corded version here, because even though I hate dragging a cord around, my cordless is rather, battery operated one. Great tool. It's a Ryobi, can't complain. I'm slowly switching over to a different brand right now, but I'm not going to complain about the Ryobi. It is a fantastic tool for the money. This is a skill. I got this because it was the cheapest one I could buy, and daggum if this hasn't been a good product. So, sometimes don't be afraid to try something new. My dad had skills his whole life, and they were pretty darn good. So, but I'm going to go ahead and start. I'm going to get some gloves because I have a tendency to get my fingers in the way of these zip wheels, and I like to keep my fingers where they are. Alright, now, like I said, this one's done. We're going to start on this one. And what I usually do is I'm just going to try to follow this line as best I can. If you cut into this piece, it's okay because there's metal underneath it. And we're going to cut through both panels so that they match up perfectly. we have a perfect match. So even if I ran into this piece at all, it's a perfect match with this piece. This particular blade's a little thicker than I like, but we should be able to get this without too much trouble. Oh, I missed a little spot here, but everything's looking pretty darn good at this point. This has got a little, need a little massage. Oh, there, all done. That's kind of what you got to do. We're gonna have to touch this up just a tad right here. Sorry if that was a little loud, but if you're gonna butt weld, that's kind of how things go. Now you'll see I've got some screws holding metal in here, which obviously they're not doing anything now. And well, that one is a little fat. I don't know. I might get a different wheel. That particular one's a little fatter than I like. This isn't bad. This is about a 1/16 of an inch, but I kind of like a little bit skinnier. Let me see if I got a skinnier wheel. I mean, 1/16 is fine. We could take that up with weld, no problem. But I kind of would like a little less. Let's see what I got. Okay, that one was a 1/16, which, according to decimals, a 1/16 would be 0.625. And I found some that are a little bit thinner. I did find some that were, I forget what they said on them. They were, they were 1/32nd, which would be half of that. Okay, 1/64 as opposed to 1/32. Oh, I'm sorry. Nope, that's even less. Okay, but I found these other ones that are brand new. I got 2 of these left, and these are 0.40. So that's 22.5 thousandths skinnier, which I'll take it, because this is a lot of gap. We're going to make it work, not a problem, but it's a lot of gap. I'm using this particular cutoff wheel because this is really hard to get up in here, and this is a smaller unit. Normally I would use a cordless, but unfortunately I can't with this one. I'm going to cut this first because you can see it, and then I'll get up into that one, and I guess you can watch on that as well. Now I forgot that this is already kind of cut, and it fits just about right. We need a little bit of massaging to go on here. Well, I'm going to use what they call clecos. Clecos are, they'll go in between the 2 panels, and I'll show you what those are when we get down to it. But I got to cut this one just a tiny bit more right here, and this one's ready to go. I did a little bit of hammering. I might be good enough now. Yeah, I think I might be good enough now. Yeah, it's holding it in place. I'm going to go ahead and put my screws in here. I can see one right here. We're going to go right there. And we'll start holding this in place a little bit better before we start massaging it even more so. Maybe I should try to drill the right way. happens is these are magnetic. And what happens is they get so full of junk that they won't hold the screw anymore. It's hard to get it out because it's magnetic. I'm going to have to clean that out somehow. Compressed air, it's a wonderful thing. But my screws are all loaded up with filings too. I've magnetized a lot of the screws. Oh, look at that, holds it a lot better now. Okay, let's try this. Oh, geez, but that just pulled the clecos like way not good. Oh, poopies. Well, let's back to the drawing board. This is the kind of thing you're going to have to deal with, unfortunately. You know, I thought I had this back nice where I wanted it. And it seemed to be, oops. I guess we're going to have to put one more probably here. Because it kind of, well, it seems to be still pretty good. Let's tighten this one down again. Put one more. See, that's not staying where it needs to be. I think because of the, oh, that's not going to help. Having a little trouble because this is an incline. Struggles. These struggles are real, my friends, you know. Yeah, that one's good and solid. Okay, let's try one more. That might still be okay. I might just have to pull these up. Well, this one don't have a little square thingy. I don't feel like digging for it, so let's grab another one. The only drawback to these is you have to be able to get to the other side. If you can't, well, then they don't work. Here we go. It's kind of nice-ish, but that's awful far right there. Don't like that at all. That's too far, too far. That may... I've got room. I've got plenty of space up here. So I think, okay, scratch this idea. Because we're not done back here. I'm not going to do that. We're going to do the... We're just going to put a screw in to hold it. We're about to start epoxy. Alright, I don't really know what to tell you. You can get it from any body shop, supply house. You can get it online. It's panel bond. This one's a 3M product. I'm not endorsing anything. I don't get paid a dime. I'm just showing you what I use. It's an 08115. You know, it's what I use. I don't know if there's a better product out there. You can tell me. Throw it in the comments. Say, hey, that's a lousy product. Find a better one. Oh, I think I may have used this one before, and it's really tight, extremely tight. Oh my! Now here's the problem with this stuff. If you do use it, golly, Sergeant Carter, and you don't seal it up real good, this is what might happen. So let me get a pair of pliers. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. And our hand's a little stronger. He doesn't got that goofy finger. For those of you who know me. Okay. Let me see. I should get my glasses so I can actually see. You have to have a special gun to do this. Basically a double caulking gun looking thing. It's not very expensive. And you have a special nozzle that comes with the stuff. I actually had to drill holes because it had hardened. So technically I'm going to say this is a one-use only product, because once you've used it once, it's really kind of a pain. No matter what precautions you take, it still seems to harden. And when it hardens, it's 80,000 pounds of test strength, supposedly. That's what it says anyway in the write-up. So you're really not going to you're not going to pull the nozzle out of it, let's just say that. So now with the mixing nozzle, it's pretty cool, because as you squeeze the handle, it forces the product through and it mixes it as it goes. It's really kind of neat. And you can see the different colors going through it as it mixes, and then it slowly turns to all one color as it comes up. See how dark it is there, how light it is there, and that's because of the two different products. So now let's just turn my attention, your attention, to the actual floor that we're getting ready to bond. I have roughly 90 minutes to work with this stuff. Once that 90 minutes is up, the working is, man, it's just taking its sweet time. Well, that's because I only have a small drill hole. Here we go. Now it's coming out. Alright. Ooh, baby. It's going to be a slow process today, I'll tell you what. It's cold, too. It's only about 45 degrees. I'm not even sure we're supposed to be doing this in weather this cold, but it promises to be in the low 50s today. And so we're going to bank on this is curing in low 50 degree weather. Now, the problem with this is I'm not going to be able to see my holes. Once I get this in there. And I'm hoping that when I smush it in, it's going to be thick enough to smush and cover all of this area that is bare right now, because I really don't. Well, that's the idea of using the epoxy as opposed to welding. It's because I want to leave as much. Man, I don't know. I might have to use 2 tubes of this stuff. Egads. I think if I remember right, this stuff was about 40 bucks. I don't remember. But the idea here is to bond, James Bond, to the panels together. Man, that is, my hand's getting tired. Daggone. I don't know. I don't remember. Well, of course, I drilled 2, I think they were probably 1/8 inch holes in this. Not really too terribly worried about this bonding. Pretty sure that's going to be okay. It's the, I'm sloppy with that hand. It's more This is real time right now, folks. If I do it, if I show you any more, which I probably will, I'm going to just speed it up. Otherwise, it's going to get really boring. But man, my hand is just getting tired. I'm probably going thicker here than I need to. I probably needed to go thicker over there because that surface is so uneven. I might throw a little bit more over there. Alright. Now we're probably oozing. Oh, wait, I forgot I missed a spot. Jeez, wheeze, Edith. Did I think this was going to be easier than welding? Yeah, it's going to be easier. In the long run, it'll be easier. I don't know about overall easier, but I think in the long run it's going to be. This one I'm going to try to stack a little higher. Just because I got some bumps over here I got to deal with. Alright. Ooh, baby. Let's put a thin coat here, just to seal it off. There we go. That's kind of the idea, is just to seal it. Now let's go ahead, just for kicks and giggles, let's throw that panel in, kind of get it lined up with a couple of screws without getting this all over myself. Let's see, there we go. It's about where it's going to go, I think. Line up a hole. I'm going to take the gloves off. See if we got one lined up here. We do. Yeah, that's my drill. Oh, poopy doos. Let's get that in there. Now before I tighten it, I want to get a couple of them in, make sure I'm all lined up here. Because we're not lined up, we're kind of... Alright. Let's get a couple more. What I did is I circled all the ones that I knew I was going to use. Once I get them all in, then I'll... And I'll zing them down. And that one's got a circle, okay. This one's an important one because you saw how much everything moved. We're going to have to go through this with each and every one. I can see the epoxy running through this hole. And you'll see why I wanted to go thick over here. See these ridges? There's something we have to contend with. So I wanted to make sure I got plenty of epoxy up into those ridges. Okay. This has got a circle. I don't see that going into anything. Oh, I guess it is. Okay. All right, this one had a. Oh, that is okay. All right, I've got 4 or 3 up in here because there's. Oh shoot! I forgot to put the epoxy there. Dadgummit! Well, we missed a spot. I got to take them all back out. See, body's nerfing. So now we're going to have to be extremely careful because we've got epoxy on stuff. Fortunately, I've got 90 minutes to screw with this stuff. But it was looking good. I was like thinking, woo, I'm almost done. But up here, I was going to put some epoxy and I forgot. But that's the good thing about working times, you know. Oh, come on, baby. Now, once we're done with all of this, now don't forget, I got 90 minutes working time, but I've got 3 other panels I got to do, so. All right, is that all of them? Yep, I'm getting messy. Hee-haw, okay. So let's pull this out. Let's flip it upside down so we don't, because we got epoxy on it everywhere. Okay. But we have to get up here. I forgot to get this. So. And this is something I plan to do last minute, and that's probably why I forgot I was going to do it. And I even have a little spot right here where I put a little piece of metal to fill that hole. Alright, I could put a little bit here. I don't know if it's going to do anything. Shoots, I thought I put my sleeve in it. I'm good like that. Alright. Okay. Let's try that again. This time the right way. Alrighty. Now we're cooking with real butter. What was that all about? Oh, yep, I got stuff all over me. Well, that's how you know you're doing it right, is when you That's a really important one right there, and it doesn't seem to want to be cooperating. Great. We're not lined up right here. That's why. That's better. Is it? Alright. See, we had it perfect the first time. But now we're trying to find the right holes. We're getting there. Yep. cooking with real butter. I don't know if you can see that, but I got a big gap starting over there. And I knew about that gap. And that's something we'll contend with later. A little tennis elbow kicking in over here. Alright, we need some more screws here. And then we'll just sock them all down, and we should have, we got 9,000 screws over here. Can't find any. I have a little piece right here that I designed to put right here. I was going to weld it in, but I figured if I can get it to go in where I want it and glue it, I'm okay with that. I'm not going to be able to clamp this, so it's going to be just kind of there. There we go. I'm not really liking it too much. There we go, that's better. Okay. Of course, dirty. Always dirty. Alright, now she's clamped. And I'm getting dirty again. I think I've got them all tight. I'm going to get my hammer and touch up a spot like right here. She's sticking up a little bit, and I really would like to get that to sit down. Maybe I'll put another screw. That's probably not a bad idea. Let's do that. Let's go ahead and put a screw in there. Or let's not. It's not in a place that's going to be easy to put a screw. Not a self-tapper anyway. Magnetic, you know? Come on, baby. Dang it. I may have to pre-drill on this one. The struggle is real. The struggle is real. Oh, for crying out loud. Let's see if I can smash my fingers with this. I can't even get the dadgum. Gonna eat up a lot of time. My fingers are okay, folks. My fingers are okay. Let's try it here. There we go. Now we're cooking with real butter. Alright, hammer, hammer, hammer. Not nearby. Alright. That one's done. Let's move over to this one. Same thing. Putting the product here. Now you may wonder why I ground everything bare, it's because this stuff won't stick. Well, it'll stick to paint and stuff, but what's going to happen is the bond will only be as strong as that paint. And we want a bond that's stronger than that, right? We want a bond that's as strong as it can be. So we don't want to rely on paint to hold our adhesive. We want to rely on actual metal and product. So that's kind of where we're at. Now this one, I'm going to put a little bit here. Okay. Now, set this baby in place. This one's going to be fun. It only has like 3 screws that are holding it in. I gotta try to find those 3 holes. Is that one of them? I don't think so. I see something there. There we go. Uh-oh, run out of screws again. Now we got to put one here to hold this one in, because otherwise, look, it's trying to hold already. Look at that. we're done with the epoxy, and we're just waiting for it to dry. It has a 90-minute work time, if you will. Now, it's cooler today. It's only about 50 degrees, if that. And so we have probably a little bit more work time than that. But I got it done. And I actually finished a little patch, and I'll show you that in a few minutes, that I hadn't planned on using epoxy on, but then I ended up using epoxy on because I went ahead and made the patch pretty quick, and all is well. But anyway, there's a big patch up in there you can't really see. Well, let's see if we can. Yeah, you can't really see it too good, but. And then we have the floor pan, which you watched me put in, and it's epoxy. We're going to leave the screws in there for at least 24 hours. Actually, for me, I'm actually going to be. It's going to be more like 8 days, 7 days, 6 days, 5 days, 5 days. It's Sunday now, and I'm not gonna work on this again until next weekend, which is going to be all of the welding. I am probably not even gonna bother showing you because it's just a matter of welding. Just bzz, bzz. She's gonna be bzz, 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 and you just walk 5-6 inches from each other until you fill it all in. There's some gaps and stuff. Now that's going to take a little bit of massaging, but as you heat it, as you're welding and you heat it, the metal moves for you and you'll get all that filled in. Let me show you that little patch I was talking about. This is that little patch. It's kind of odd shaped, but we had some rust. This is where the seat mounts, and so I needed to. What I did is I epoxied this over the top of the seat mount. I wasn't going to do it originally because I'm thinking, well, we're mounting the seat through this. Why, the seat's going to hold it down, right? I didn't think it was going to be a big deal. Plus, we're going to be welding all the way around it. But I figured I had some of that. The epoxy's not going to be any good. I've got maybe, 15% of that tube left. It's doubtful it's ever going to be usable. It'll probably go to waste. So I just went ahead and put some epoxy there. Everything here is epoxied and ready to go. You'll see there's some gaps again, but a lot of that gap will make up as soon as you just need to pull it upward. This is going to come up. We'll push it from the other side. Most of it, this looks really good in here, and we just fill in all that with weld. A little bit more of a gap here than I wanted, but again, we'll be able to fill all that in with weld. I'll show you some of that when we get to the welding part. You might be like, well, why are you doing such big gaps, or why are you doing gaps at all? Why don't you put a flange and butt weld? And I'll explain all that. It's a strength thing, and I'll explain all that when we get to the welding part. But most of the welding I am not going to even bother showing you, because I'll show you like a few minutes of it, and that is that, because it's just monotonous. Hours and hours of bzz, bzz, bzz. It's going to get real boring real fast. But I'll show you the technicalities behind it and why I decided to do it this way, why I butt weld it. Now here, this was something I did not intend to do. See all these screws? This is a flange from the factory, okay? This was a flange from the factory. So I went ahead and did a factory style flange. Technically now there's two flanges and there was only one, but this is a double walled, and it's got like a lip. You'll never see this flange on the outside. So I went ahead and I epoxied that as well. That'll save me a ton of welding along this edge. And that's kind of what the epoxy is all about. I don't have to do any welding here. I won't have to do any welding on the frame, where the frame attaches. I might do a little bit in spots like this where there's a hole. I might do a little spot there. But on the whole, it saved me a ton of welding. And the epoxy, well, since it's got a 90-minute work time, it took me less than an hour and a half to put the epoxy down. Now, I had everything cut and fitted and ready to go before I laid that epoxy, because supposedly it has 80,000 pounds of tensile strength. I don't know about you, it's not tinsel like Christmas tinsel. It's tensile, which is like a pencil with a T. T is in tango, tensile strength. And that means it takes, supposedly, let's just say the metal should rip before the epoxy lets go. Let's just put it that way. Now, it's going to suck for the next guy. Maybe, if the next guy he'll have to just grind it away. There's really You know, I don't know if it's definitely going to be tougher than weld, I think, and it covers a lot more area. If we spot welded everything, you'd have a little spot of weld, you know. But when you epoxy it, now you have an entire area of adhesion. So I think it's better, and corrosion, that's the main reason I did it. Corrosion cannot get in between the panels because the epoxy is sealing the panels together. So there's no corrosion can get in between the panels. And that's the problem with weld, is corrosion will get between the panels and cause rust. With the epoxy, that can't happen because the epoxy itself is a sealer, and it will seal off that metal. Now, I've got holes that'll have to be like here and here. Well, there's nothing between there anyway. But if I have a hole anywhere, like when I take these screws out, there'll be holes. And I will have to weld those holes, otherwise it is, well, there's probably epoxy in them, but yeah, it could definitely cause some contamination and allow some rust to form in that area. So we'll throw some weld in there, and then we'll fill it with, you know, we'll do more rusty metal primer and all that happy horse ducky. But anyway, there you go. There are the rough floor pans that are epoxied in. They are not coming out at this point. They are done as far as where they're going. There's no more fitting. There's no more. All we're going to do is just finish weld. All of these seams are going to have to be welded. Hours and hours and hours of welding. Okay, well, that's going to be next week, so it's a new day, and I'm not going to work on the car. Meant to work on it yesterday, and it was freezing cold out, and we've had some issues, so I wasn't able to work on it yesterday. And now it's today, and it's an hour before dark. And I still have to get all of my cars back in, and this one back out. And, yeah, so we're not going to get to work on it again today. Just so you know, and you probably don't really care, life happens. My fuelish C3 Corvette, big block car, decided to run on 4 cylinders. Don't know why. Went to pull it out of the shop and just run it on 4. All 4 cylinders on the back half, not working. I don't know. So anyway, she's going to get worked on next week. And my tractor's battery died. Fortunately, that's under warranty, so I'll get a new battery for free. I know that's some good news, but it died today, so I spent some time trying to get it running today because I had a bunch of stuff I had to move, some wood. And speaking of wood, I had to chop, you know, a rick of wood this morning. So, needless to say, aching back. Yeah, for a 61-year-old guy, you know, chopping wood gets to you a little bit. Anyhow, I'm just going to show you where I'm at now on this car. The floor pan, I've got 1 floor pan in, okay? I still have a little bit of few small holes, pinholes here and there that I'm going to fill in, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But unfortunately, it's so cold that it would take me, because I don't run the heater in the shop all week while I'm at work, because I don't get to work in here but on the weekends, and it takes a day to warm the shop up. And so then I've got less than a half a day, because, you know, we got church and stuff on Sunday, so we got a half a day to work on a car. So that doesn't work either. So, that being said, I give you guys, God bless you people up in the northern snowman's land, because how do you work in the cold? It's ridiculous. Anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and show you where I'm at right now. God bless you people who live in the cold. I don't know how, I can't do it. And we only have cold for like 2 months out of the year, so I really shouldn't complain. But when it is cold, daggum, right? Can't get nothing done. I cannot finish this job even right now for the next 2 weeks anyway, because it's going to be below freezing the whole time. And once I finish the welding, I have to coat it, right? I got to coat everything so that it doesn't rust any further. And after I coat it, then I have to put seam sealer, which also has to cure. So it's got to be above 50 degrees. And it is January, so even here in Tennessee, January is still a little cold. There are some 45-degree days. Now, I could probably heat the shop up in a couple of hours on a 45-degree day. But those are going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and I got to work. So I'm going to do it. So anyhow, let me stop yapping, and hopefully you people up north will understand, and you people from Florida, where I'm from, I wish I was back there. Anyhow, I'll show you where I'm at. The camera is actually sitting in the car, and I'm outside the car. So now I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to show you where I'm at. I've got one floor pan in. Like I said, there's still a little bit of pinholes here and there I'm going to have to fill in. I've got an idea how I'm going to do that. It's an idea I just came up with, because I usually just sit there with the welder and just put a light underneath it so you can see them. But it gets really, really hard to see a pinhole with a welding helmet on and glasses. So I've come up with an idea. I'm going to let you wonder what that idea is. So you'll watch the next video about this car. And I think it will work because it works on panels. It's old school, very, very old school. But, ew, there's some rust on this car I didn't notice. God, I got a lot of work to do. Anyway, let me show you this, and we'll go ahead and end the video. I appreciate y'all watching this. So here we go. This is where I'm at. You can see way up in there, I've got a bunch of little patches and stuff that had to be done. You can see all the welds. That's where we're at right now. Alright, this side is actually almost no pinholes that I could find. That side's still got a few. Up in there is pretty good too. And then I've got a hole that I got to patch, a couple of them. That was supposed to be there, but that's because this is not the right floor pan. This floor pan is out of a B-body Charger, or could come out of a Roadrunner or Satellite or something too. But it fits B-body Mopar, Chrysler, Mopar, same thing. But this is where we're at now. So you can fit B-body floor pans into an F-body. The rest of them, we still got to finish this one, as you can see. Still got to finish that one, and then that one over there. So we still got a lot of work, and I'm not going to lie, I have been welding for days. Okay, this particular floor pan probably took me a good 8 hours of welding, just because you have to. It's a one little dot at a time. Well, you don't really weld like you would think welding. You sit there and do a spot weld. And perhaps I'll show you that a little bit later, but unfortunately I'm out of time today. And yeah, but there you go. That's as far as I have gotten in 2 very long weekends. Of course, there's a lot of, I showed you doing the gluing it in. That's working very well. Unfortunately, I had some nice weather to get that done. Otherwise, it'd have been all welding, because you can't use any kind of product that needs to cure in this cold weather. And if you're anything like me and you don't have a heated shop, well, I mean, I can heat it. I've got a blast heater, but like I said, it'll take, in 20-degree weather, it's going to take, a day just to warm the shop up. So yeah, it's just not going to happen. So next week we're going to look forward to, I don't know if you can see it, we'll kind of bring you over here. The Fuelish Vet. She's a great car. She's been running great, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, the headers here, on the 2 back headers, I can put my hand on them, those 2 will fry your hand if you touch it. I'm hoping it's just that carburetor stopped working for some reason, because of the way the intake is designed. They're not really split, but for the fuel to move from here to there, because it's all 4 of the rear cylinders. So I'm thinking maybe this carburetor is not doing carburetor things. I doubt it's in the distributor, because that just doesn't make any sense. The only other thing that's worrying me is it my cam? Please tell me it's not the cam again, because if the cam wipes on this engine one more time, I've got to save up and do a roller, because I am tired of flat tapping cams going south on me. So anyway, there you go, folks. This is going to be next week's project. And I've got some leaks in the C4, so we've got to fix that. I've got a speed sensor to do on the Sonoma. And as you can see, my wife is now stacking some of the wood that I spent all that time cutting. So as you can see, she's she's like, don't show me, don't show me. But she's throwing wood in the wheelbarrow right now. But that's what I did all afternoon, was chopping wood, and then of course breaking up some kindling. We use old pallets for kindling, and they work really well. They burn nice and hot. And there's my tractor. With a dead battery. I got it charging up, but the battery is totally smoked. Fortunately, it's under warranty, and we're going to get that fixed. But yeah, it's one of them weekends, folks. But anyway, thank you for watching. And Billy, I'm sorry I didn't get your car done this weekend. I'm working on it, but doing the best I can. Life's happening. Thank you for watching. See ya!